2007 Cadillac Escalade valve cover replacement. I'm Brian Essick from How To Automotive. I'm going to walk you through that process. We're going to get started by removing the top engine cover. To do that, you're just going to put your hands under here and pop it up and then wiggle it and pull it towards you. I'm going to start on the driver's side here first, and we're going to remove this little gray tab here from the main connector here, and then lift the tab up and unplug the electrical connector like that and set it aside. Then we're going to remove the 10mm bolts that have the stud on them. So we'll remove one here, and this wire loom, you just pushes on it, so you have to pull it off and then remove that one also. So after removing the 5 10mm bolts with those studs on it like this, and some of them will be hidden under the wiring harness and in the back too, you get those removed. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the coil pack like that, and you're just going to leave the ignition wires and everything plugged in and just kind of pull it over like that. And now what you can do is remove the 4 8mm bolts right there are dead in the center of the valve cover. So you remove all 4 of those. So after you get the bolts out of the center of the valve cover, it's pretty much going to be free, but at the very back there's a vent line you need to pop off of the valve cover too. And once you get that popped off, then you can take your wiring harness and kind of lift it out of the way and just lift your valve cover straight out and pull it out. So now that I got the driver's side valve cover off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my focus to the passenger side. And I'm going to take that one apart, and then when I got them all apart, then what I'll do is I'll clean the valve covers, both of them together, and then I'll do all my cleaning all at one time. So we're going to switch over to the passenger side. And we're going to do pretty much the same thing. We're going to unplug the main wiring loom here, and then we're going to remove all the 10mm bolts with the studs on it, and there should be about 5 of them on this side also. And some of them may be hidden under the wire looms. You might have to lift them up. And this one, the passenger side, is going to be a little tougher, but it's not that bad. So to get the coil pack, after unbolting it, it's not enough room to maneuver down here like we did the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop the coil wires off the ignition coils here. So I'll take all the coil wires off. So we'll take them off the coils here, all 4 of them, and just push them off, and then we should be able to maneuver the whole coil pack out of the car. So the whole coil pack will come out as one assembly like this. And to get to the very last bolt back here, what I had to use 10mm, deep 10mm with a wobble, and I used my extension, and I was able to get down there and get to the bolt and get it out. So when you guys do this, take the ignition wires off first, and then take off the 5 10mm bolts and unplug your connector here, and it'll come out, and you'll just have to maneuver the wiring harness kind of out of your way. So once you get that done, you can go ahead and remove the 4 8mm bolts, and then the whole valve, and then you'll probably lift your wiring harness up kind of like that out of your way, and then the whole valve cover will come out like right here. So now that we got the valve cover off on both sides, we got to clean up the mating surfaces on the cylinder heads itself. So what you want to do is you want to kind of make sure you try not to wash the dirt into the cylinder. So you're going to wipe it away and use rags. And I like to clean it off as much as I can with rags first, and then I'll go over it I'll spray clean on a rag, and then I'll wipe it down. And then if there's any stuff that I may need to scrape off, I'll use like a razor blade or a scraper or whatever, and so make sure to clean the surface. And you want to be careful not to scar when you're scraping these, not to scar the valve cover. They're made of aluminum and soft, so if you scar it deep enough, even with the new gasket on there, it'll leak. So go ahead and clean both cylinder heads up. Then after you get the cylinder heads cleaned up, you're going to remove the gasket from the old valve cover here, and you're also going to remove these grommets and work these bolts out. And to get the grommets out, I just basically use a screwdriver and kind of pop them out like that. And we're going to replace these rubber grommets too, with new ones and the gasket. So once you get it all out, then you can take it into your parts washer and clean the valve covers inside and out. And do both valve covers. So I wanted to show you guys the valve cover part numbers. This is a Felpro. This is the grommets that go in the center of the bolts, and that's the kit for that. They're two separate. There's also a Felpro brand. To get the bushings off, what I used was just a pair of side cutters like so, and just, you know, kind of cut them off. To press the new bushings onto the bolts, I'm going to put a little lube here, and then kind of get it started at an angle, and then press them on. So now that you got your valve covers all cleaned up, go ahead and you got your bushings pressed onto your studs here, and your new gasket installed. Your cylinder head cleaned up. Now what you're going to do, I'm going to start on the passenger side here, and I'm going to kind of just lift up the wiring harness, and maybe you can tuck it up over the dipstick, and kind of make sure you got everything out of the way. And then I'll route my new valve cover in there, and then I'll start the bolts by hand, all 4 of them. And before I bolt them down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the gasket here, and I'm going to use a mirror, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay, after you get the valve covers on and all the bolts started, and just leave them loose, what you want to do is you want to take your mirror like this and double check the gasket that it didn't fall out all the way around. And also what you want to check for is make sure that there's no wire looms or any hoses or anything that may be caught underneath it. You want to make sure you didn't pinch any wires or anything. And then once you got that figured out, what you're going to do is you're going to run the bolts in until they're snug. And once the bolts are snugged up and you verify that the gaskets are good, so you can torque them down to either 9 foot-pounds or 106 inch-pounds. And what I like to do is I like to start in the middle, so I'll torque the 2 middle ones, and then I'll torque the 2 outer ones. And you'll use a torque wrench that looks similar to this. This is a foot-pound one here, and you'll just twist it to the numbers match up to whatever you need. In this case, it's about 9 foot-pounds. And if you don't have a torque wrench, you can do this by hand, but just remember 9 foot-pounds is not a whole lot of torque, so you probably want to use like a 1/4 inch ratchet, and you want to kind of feel the gasket crush down a little bit, but you don't want to over tighten it. They are aluminum covers, and they can break. Okay, now that our valve covers are back in and bolted back up, it's time to put the coils back in. So I'm going to go ahead and put them in on top of the valve cover and start the 5 bolts on each coil pack with the studs. And if you went ahead and already did the passenger side, don't forget to plug in the PCV hose in the back. And so now you can plug your coils in. I'll put these on. I'm going to start all 5 bolts by hand first, and then once I got them all started, then I'll tighten them all down, and just tighten them down a little 1/4 turn after they're snugged up. Just 1/4 turns. They don't have to be too tight. And then after that, you can plug in your main plug here, and then on the passenger side here, on the passenger side here, you'll just plug the ignition wires back onto the coils themselves. So just hold the wiring harness out of your way and kind of just nose the coil in. So kind of work it into place, and you have to keep maneuvering the wiring harness in the back out of your way. So after getting your coil packs back bolted back up, go ahead and plug them back in. The main connector, plug it back in, and then put your little safety wire that was in there. And then after that, you can go ahead and plug in your ignition wires. So they're the ones that went straight below it, so you can't mix them up. Plug those back in until they snap on. And after you get all the ignition wires plugged on, then what you want to do is take all the wire looms and put them back on where they went. So they have those little plastic, let's see if you can see it here. Anyways, they push over the studs. So go ahead and put those back on, and after that, you'll do both sides. And after you get that both sides bolted back up and plugged back in, and then the safety tab here reinstalled so the coils don't unplug, then you can go ahead and put your top cover back on. And it just slides into the groove back there in the back and pushes down. And then once you got the top cover back on, that completes the valve cover replacement on a 2007 Cadillac Escalade with the 6.2 liter. I'm Brian Esker from How To Automotive, and I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos, and encourage you to subscribe for more valuable videos like this. Thank you again.